Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, SOTAH Mem Daled. We are on the bottom of Mem Gimel Amud Beis on the very last line. V'amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, another halacha from the same Manda Amar. Meis, Teifes Arba Amos L'Tumah. This is a din d'Rabbanan. Rashi explains, Chachamim, we're concerned lest people get too close to a mace and become tamei. They established that there is a 4 amma perimeter around the mace, which is considered a mokim tumah. So the mace sort of extends his influence into dalad amos around him. Mace teifes arba amos l'tumah, one who gets too close to a mace, even without touching the mace. Within 4 amos, he is considered tamei midrabanan. V'tana, tuna. Tuna means our Tana. We find it in our Mishnayos as well. The Tana taught us as follows. It's actually a Mishnah, Maseches Aholis. And this Mishnah will indeed prove to us that there is this Gzera, this halacha of 4 amos around a mace. So the Mishnah begins by describing a Chatzir HaKever. Rashi explains. Typically they would designate caves for burial of mason. So we have a ma'ara containing mason in there. They would put them into the walls. It was called a kuch, a little cavity in the wall, in which they would put the mace. So you have this ma'ara, outside of which there is a chatzar, a little courtyard, separated, of course, from the cave by a doorway, by a mechitza. But you're still, close enough to the mace. What is the halacha? Should one stand inside the chatzar? Chatzar HaKever, ha'imr b'soicha tar. If one is inside the chatzar, he is tar. Despite the fact that he's very close to the kvarim, because the chatzar is considered its own domain, its own entity. It's a different mechitza, a different place. So despite the fact that he's standing, within 4 amos of the mace, he's still tar. Who provided sheyu ba'arba amos div Rabbi Shammai. This only works if the chatzar is a significantly sized chatzar. It's 4 amos by 4 amos, in which case it has its own identity, its own makom, and therefore when one stands inside that chatzar, he's not contaminated by the tumah of the mace, despite the fact that he's very close to the mace. Rashi says it's chashiv makam la'atzma, because if it's less than 4 by 4 amos, then it's batel to the ma'ara, and he becomes tamei. This is whose shita? Divrei Rabbi Shammai. You don't need 4 by 4 amos. Arba tfachim, 4 by 4 tfachim is sufficient. We find many times in Shas 4 tfachim is a makam chashiv. Bamed dvarim amurim. Beis Hillel continue. When do I allow a person to stand in this teeny little chatzar 4 by 4 tfachim? Shepischam alamala, when the entranceway is from on top. You have to sort of jump into the chatzar from on top. But if you access the chatzar from the side, a staircase or a ramp, Divrei HaKol arba amos, all agree 4 tfachim is not enough. In this case, you need a bigger chatzar to keep you tar 4 amos. Just the opposite, says the Gemara. Klape, Laya, which direction are you going? Adrab, just the opposite. If anything, Minatzad, when the entranceway is off to the side, so you can access the chatzar, just by stepping into it via a staircase or going down a ramp. Middadeit v'nafik. Then you sort of hop out, you sort of take steps out of the chatzar, away from the me'ara, without getting involved with the me'ara and perhaps leaning over the entranceway to the mara, which is metamayu. It's much easier to keep a distance, a safe distance from the mara, if you have a decent way of getting out of the chatzar without having to climb all over the place. Milamal, but if you have to sort of climb out of the top, and you have to wiggle your way out by sort of, working your way up the walls. It's impossible almost not to sort of hover over the entranceway of the ma'ara, which is metamayu. So if anything, it's the other way around. Having a proper entranceway helps you. Ella, rather, says the Gemara, you're 100% right. When do we allow a small chutzner to keep you safe? 4x4 tefachim, that's when you have a proper way to get to the chutzner without having to entangle yourself with the ma'ara. But if the only way in is by jumping in from the top and climbing out from the top, then you need a bigger chutzner to ensure a safe distance from the ma'ara. Arba amis. Oh, now we bring this whole Mishnah and we explain it. But what was the purpose of bringing the Mishnah? To show that typically a mace is mitame 4 ames around him, because the fact that the Mishnah needs to tell you that when you stand in a chatzar, which is near the kever, you're still tar because the chatzar is its own place, etc. What does that tell you about the concept of a mace being mitame nearby? It's only because you're in the chatzar hakever, which is surrounded by defined mechitzas, which creates its own domain. So you're separate from the mace, and you're not affected by the mace. Aval mace ba'al matafis, but a typical mace sitting out in the open, being within 4 ames, affects you. That's a raya to our halacha. Okay, back to wartime. So the shaiter gets up, the officer calls out, anybody who got engaged to a woman and has not yet married, go back home. Actually, not back home, but don't engage in active combat, rather in a support role. Tana Rabbanan. What's included? The pasuk could have said Asher Isha Eras, a woman he had engaged, and instead it says Asher Eras Isha. It starts with Eras and then to Isha. We learn from here that we include everything. Tana Rabbanan Asher Eras Echad Ha'Ma'aris Es Absula, whether he's involved with a Besula, Echad Ha'Ma'aris Es Almana, even a woman who had previously married, but to him she is new. Even a Isha whose husband passed away without kids, and here his brother is the Yavam, she's awaiting his Yibum, that's also considered like a woman who's engaged to him. Even if 5 brothers went out to war, and one passed away during wartime, Kulan Chayzin, they all go back because they're all potential candidates to do Yibum to their brother's wife. Instead of just saying Asher Eiras Isha v'loy lokach, it says loy lokacha. What do we learn from there? Loy lokach v'loy lokacha prat la'almana l'kayin gadol, provided that it's a suitable match, a suitable marriage. But if there's any inappropriateness, any avira involved in this marriage, he doesn't get a pass. He has no exemption. Prat la'almana, who was married l'kayin gadol, grusha v'chalutza l'kayin hedid, mamzeres and nezina l'Yisrael, and bas Yisrael, mamzer l'nasim. So these fellows stay out and engage in battle. No deferment. Now, realize they all did Averis. So that in itself is enough reason to return. Lema de loik Rabbi Aglili, would appear that this Bryce is not following Rabbi Aglili, Rabbi Aglili, because according to that Shita, Ha'amar, doesn't he tell us in the next Mishnah? When the Shaitrim would call out, anybody who is Hayore v'rach alev, anybody who is fearful or faint-hearted, go back home. It's referring to a spiritual faint-heartedness. The person is afraid of the averas that he did, and is concerned that he won't be successful at battle. Go back home. So a fellow who married an almana l'kayin gadol, etc., they should be going back because of what they did. Why are we allowing them to stay out at battle? Even Rabbi Aglili would agree in this case, because they haven't yet committed any sin. Because the Rabbi tells us, engaging in this manner, almana to kayin gadol, that in itself is not really that's not really a violation of an isser until you actually marry. Because the Rabbi lo'olamenu chayev ad sheyivoil, that the isser is only when you actually marry and live as married. Not ta'am, why? Doesn't the pasuk say lo yikach. So Rashi explains, by the other ones, mamzeres, li Yisrael, all those things, it says lo yavoy, lo tischate, and of course it means marriage. It's pashut. There's no Isser until marriage. But when it comes to an almana, it also says lo yikach. So how do we know the Isser is only committed upon marriage itself? Why lo yikach? But then the pasuk continues. He shouldn't defile his wife and his kids. Mishum lo yichalel. The Isser is primarily when he does chilul, and that's when he actually lives as married. That's how we know that he doesn't get malchus until he is bail. And in our case, we're speaking way before that. He only engaged her. An Isser has not yet been committed, and therefore he stays out at war. We learned in a Bryce. We have 3 categories of exemptions, right? House-related, field-related, parnasa-related, and marriage-related. Asher bona, asher nota, asher ireis. Limda Torah derech eretz. In the way that the Torah presented it, in this order, we learn derech eretz, way of life. Shivna adam bais. A person is meant to arrange his life in this manner, in this order. First, you build yourself a home to live in. V'yita kerem, then you set up parnasa, a source of livelihood. V'acharkach, only then do you take upon yourself responsibility of marriage. Yisa isha. V'av shloime b'chach amar b'chach maseh, likewise Shlomo Melech said in his words of wisdom in Mishlei. It's an order. Hachin b'chutz machlachtecha. First you do that. V'atada b'sadalach, you establish your sada. Achar u'benisa b'esecha, then you establish your family. And we learn, Hachin b'chutz malachtecha, go out there and build your home. Zebayis, build up a house to live in. V'atada b'sadalach, ze kerem, establish your parnasa. And then afterwards marry. Achar u'benisa b'esecha, zu isha. Davar achar, another pshat. It's going on the derech of learning Torah. Hachin b'chutz malachtecha ze mikra, establish your foundation through learning Chumash. Va'atada b'sadalach, then advance to Zeh Mishnah, the next level of learning. Achar, after which ubanisa beischa, build up your home, the shleimus of learning Zeh Gemara. Davar achar, another pshat. Hochem b'chutz melachtecha, that's going on what? Zeh Mikra Mishnah. Va'atada b'sadalach, that's going on the next level Zeh Gemara, to delve into the deeper meaning behind the halachis. After which we have achar ubanischa beischa. Ubanisa beischa elu masim toivim. Then you start working on your midos, on your personality, when you're empowered with the spiritual immersion of Torah. Rabbi Yehuda, he has another pshat. That's going on all facets of learning Torah. Establish yourself in Torah as a mikra u'mishnah v'gemara. Then comes the next level, character. Va'atada b'sadalach elu masim toivim. Achar, after which Obenisa Beischa, Drosh v'Kabal Schar, elaborate further in Torah and teach others. Ve'elush einan chayzun, habayne be'shar, and we learn that if a person simply rebuilt his home using the same exact configuration and design, that's not really considered a new home. He doesn't leave battle. Tana, we learned on Bryce. However, if there's any slight addition, if he even added one row of blocks, whether in width or height, that additional new element gives him the right to come back home. If a person builds a block home in the area called Sharon, where the blocks would weaken and sink, and you would have to rebuild it very often, that's not really considered something of significance, something of permanence, and he doesn't come home. Tana, we learned in the Brisa, needs to be redone, rebuilt, refixed. Twice in 7 years. That's not exciting enough to return from battle. In the following situations, the fellow doesn't even leave his home to begin with, as opposed to the previous individuals who would go out, hear the instructions, and then return partway, not engage in active battle, an active combat engagement, but in a support role to the other troops. However, the following individuals never left their homes to begin with, and don't engage in any war efforts. They're preoccupied with their They're tafkid at home, building their home, etc. You see, he built his new home, and he moved in, but it's still within that first year. He married, but it's still within Shana Rishona. He has his orchard, providing his fruit on the fourth year, but it's still within that fourth year. He hasn't really completed that year. This fellow never leaves, stays home to begin with. Tana Rabbanan, Isha Chadasha. So this fellow married an Isha Chadasha, Ainli Ela Chadasha, perhaps only a brand new wife who had never married anybody else. What about Almana Grusha Minayin? He married an Isha who was previously married, but to him it's his first time with her. Tamalayim Isha, Mikol Makam. Isha means any type of wife. Im Kema Tamalayim Isha Chadasha. So why does the pasuk stress Chadasha? Misha Chadasha Loi, she's new to him. It's his first experience with her. So what is this coming to? As a person, as opposed to a fellow who already married his own divorcee. It's the second time around with the same Isha. There's no newness, not on account of her, or not on account of him, and therefore there's no deferment in this case. So in this case, he does not join the war effort. Perhaps he doesn't actually join in a combat role. Perhaps he'll serve in a support role, provide food and drink, maintain the roads. No, these individuals are totally preoccupied. They're isik b'mitzvah, nothing doing. They're not engaged in anything other than their domestic responsibilities. What about the previous group of individuals? He built his home, but he has not yet moved in at all. He planted his keren, but has not yet taken any fruit. Engaged a woman, but not married yet. What about those individuals? Do they stay home totally, or do they play a support role? The pasuk says, Olav, only the fellow who already is married and is within his Shana Rishona, he should not be engaged in anything. Olav yatamaver, you can't involve him in anything. But you could get the other individuals involved and impose on them, at least, to engage in a support role. Says the Gemara, Me'achar de Kosav Layavar. So once the pasuk says, don't engage this fellow with anything, if he's not involved in anything at all, even in a support role, which is a relatively minor contribution, why does the pasuk have to say he doesn't actually join battle? Well, obviously, of course. And to give you two isurim for getting him involved. And that's why we have the double isur. If he gets involved, he gets two isurim. One is layavor, and then if he actually goes out to war, it's layetze b'tzava on top of that. So bottom line, we have basically two groups of people. Some stay home totally, and some go out and serve at least in a support role. The fellow who's still within the Shana Rishona of either marriage, purchasing a home, or a vineyard, these fellows don't get involved in anything other than what they're doing in their domestic scene, as opposed to the other fellows who got the new home, vineyard or wife, but have not yet moved in, taken any fruit, or actually married. Those fellows, although they don't engage in battle, but they are mesakin the drachim and are mesapek ma'imamazim. Now we get to the third phase. V'yosfu ha'shoitrim l'daber lam. So the shoitrim will now add to the words of the kohen. And he starts speaking. Anybody who is yorei v'rachalevav, anybody who's fearful and faint-hearted, yelech v'yoshev l'beisa, go back home. Don't melt your brother's hearts like yours, meaning don't have a detrimental effect by being around and perhaps weakening your brother's resolve to fight in battle. So who's this fellow who's yorei v'rachaleva? Are we speaking about emotional weakness or spiritual weakness? Rabbi Kiva Omer hayorei v'rachalevav kima shmoi, literally. He has no courage to stand when they stand together, shoulder to shoulder, to face the enemy. He can't handle that pressure. To see a drawn sword. No. We're speaking about a fellow who's concerned about his spiritual deficiencies and is afraid that he's not going to contribute positively to the war effort because of his ruchnius deficiency. Listen to this marvelous point. Says Rabbi Yaglili, you know why we allow all those exemptions? The wife, the kerem, the bite. You know why? Not on account of themselves. It's mainly to give this fellow a cover, an alibi. Torah gives this fellow all those others to be toiling them, to pretend, so to speak, that he's one of them. When he picks up and walks away from battle, everybody thinks, okay, maybe he's one of those. So it spares him from unnecessary shame and embarrassment. Rabbi Yehuda, what's an example of a fellow who's deficient in spiritual matters? Only Da'iraisa Isurim, like an Amana who was married to a Kain Gadol, Grusha B'chalutz l'Kain Hedit, etc., etc. Amzeres l'Nisin l'Yisrael, Baz Yisrael l'Nasan l'Mamzer. All these individuals are example of Harayu HaYorei V'Rachalevav. Okay, when they're done speaking, now they have everybody battle ready. When they finished giving instructions of Paktu, they set up Storitz voice, leaders, generals, B'Rosh Ha'am, B'Ikvish Ha'am. At the head, the front, Uba'Keva Shalom, and behind the troops. Ma'amidin Zekifan Lefneim. They set up strong people who can ensure that the soldiers don't stumble, and they can give them words of encouragement. So these fellows stand in front to lead the way. We have others behind the soldiers. What for? Ukeshilin shel barzel b'yadeim, who are holding these weapons, these poles in their hands. If they notice somebody trying to escape, run away from the battlefield, he has the reshus, he has permission to injure him in his legs. You know why? You're weakening everybody's resolve. You know how you begin to lose? By running away. And therefore they have to stop it, nip it at the bud. Shanamar, we find two examples of this in history. When fleeing precipitated losing the battle. Nas Yisrael ifnei Plishtim, they ran away. So Nisa created Nefila. Another example, Halon Oimer, therefore they have to be there to ensure compliance. Concludes the Mishnah. When do we allow for all these exemptions and deferments? When Klal Yisrael is engaged in an optional war. Mitzvah, but if it's a real milchama, meaning it's an obligatory milchama, Rashi says, for instance, Kigon Kibush Eretz Yisrael v'mei Yeshua, and they conquered Eretz Yisrael with Yeshua, that's called a milchemes mitzvah. There are no exceptions. Everybody's involved. Hakol Yotzin, everybody goes out and participates. Afilu Chasan, coming out of his chuppah, Mechadre, V'chala Mechupasa, she does the cooking, etc. So, when it's just rishus, we have exemptions and deferments. But if milchemes mitzvah, everybody's involved. Rabbi Yehuda is not really disagreeing for the most part. He's just using different words. When do we allow for exemptions? Milchemes mitzvah. When it's just a mitzvah, it's not really conquering Eretz Yisrael like Yeshua's time. But when it's an obligatory war effort, like when they conquered Eretz Yisrael. So Tanakam is using rishus as opposed to mitzvah. Rabbi Yehuda is just using mitzvah as opposed to chayva. Basically, they're both saying the same thing. The lower level milchama gets exemptions, but the higher level does not. Hakol yotzin, everybody participates. Afilu chasan mechadroi v'kala mechupas. Now the Mishnah spoke about a hayarei v'rachalevav. According to Rabbi Akiva, literally fearful. According to Rabbi Yesi Aglili, he's afraid about averis. According to Rabbi Yesi, he gave examples of almana, l'kain gadol, etc. Any difference between Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Yossi? My Ika ben Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Sorry, my Ika ben Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Ika ben, now the difference is like this. Avera de Rabbanon. You see, Rabbi Yossi gave examples of illicit marriages, right? Isuri Dairaisa. According to him, only that type of Avera justifies, only that type of deficiency qualifies for Yorei V'Rachalevav. And according to Rabbi Aglili, even Avera de Rabbanon. Keman Oslo de Sanya. So we have this brisa, and who's it following? What does the brisa say? Sach ben tefillah l'tefillah. If a person spoke out between the tefillah shal yad and putting on tefillah shal rosh, Avera hi b'yadai. He did an Avera, v'chayzer, and he returns from battle. V'chayzer aleh, me'orcha melchama. Now this is only an Issa D'Rabbanan. Keman, who's the Shita? Rabbi Aglili, that Issa D'Rabbanan justifies. Now there are two ways to learn this Gemara. Rashi learns that he spoke between Tefillin Shal Yad and Tefillin Shal Rosh, but did not make a new bracha. He brings the Gemara Menachos that if a person puts on Tefillin Shal Yad and Tefillin Shal Rosh without interruption, there's only one bracha l'haniach. If he speaks out between, then he has to go and make a bracha on the Shal Rosh separately, on mitzvahs tefillin. So this fellow spoke. If he would have made the second bracha, it would be okay. Rashi says the problem is he spoke, but he forgot to make the bracha. So just from missing a bracha opportunity, he comes back from the war zone. Amazing. Rabbi Natan learns differently. He says that you always make two brachas, even without being soch by tefillah, you make the lo niach on the shal yad and al mitzvah tefillin like the shal rosh, like many of us do today. When the Gemara speaks about soch by tefillah averi biyadei, that's because he should have made two brachas on the shal rosh, without speaking in between. So the lo niach on the shal yad is mighty the shal rosh as well. But if he speaks out, he has to start again from scratch. When he gets to the shal rosh, he has to make al mitzvah tefillin, but also lo niach all over again. So what did this fellow do wrong by speaking out? He was geirem bracha she'ein tzricha. He caused himself to have to say another bracha, and that's the isser. Otherwise, he would have just had one bracha for the shal yad, one for the shal rosh. Now that he spoke out, he has to add another bracha for the shal rosh, and that's the issue we're dealing with here. And that justifies returning from battle, a bracha she'ein tzricha. Amazing. Continues the Gemara. So Rabbi Kiva speaks about Yorei V'Rachaleva being just an ordinary person who's emotionally weak. He can't face battle. Whereas the other Shitas, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Aglili, speak about spiritual deficiencies. Man Tana L'Adzon Rabban, who's the author of the Brisa? Shama Kal Kronis V'Yirtia. This fellow went out and heard these frightening sounds coming from the enemy's horns, the trumpets, V'Yirtia, and he jumps back in fright. Hagavas Trisan V'Yirtia, he hears the clashing of the shields and jumps back. Tzech Charavos, he hears the clinging of the swords of Mayim Shesins Noya Birkov, and he's totally unnerved, and he loses control of his water, of his needs. This fellow is totally gripped with fright. Chayzer, he returns from battle. That's the brisa. Come on, whose Shita is this consistent with? Perhaps it's only Rabbi Akiva, not Rabbi Aglili, who speaks about spiritual deficiencies but not emotional deficiencies. Says the Gemara, no. Baha. When we see such a scene where this person is just totally gripped with fear to this extent, Rabbi Aglili would agree that he should be sent away from battle. The pasuk says, should take care not to detract from his brethren, from his comrades' fighting spirit. So in this case, everybody agrees he belongs back home. So they set up these guards to ensure nobody flees. Why? The Mishnah uses a term shetchilas nisa nefila. And then there's a kasha on the choice of words. Hi, why does the Mishnah say mipnei shetchilas nisa nefila? That nefila, falling, is the initiation of fleeing. It should be the other way around. We're afraid of falling in battle. Fleeing precipitates falling. Nisa running away is goyre and brings nefila. Emo, you're right. Let's switch it around. Meshatchilas Nisa nefila. Sorry, meshatchilas nefila Nisa. Now, when do we allow all these for all these exemptions and deferments? B'melchames harishus. So we find a slight difference in terminology. Tanakama uses rishus versus mitzvah. Right? So the deferments apply to rishus, but if we go a step higher, which is mitzvah, then everybody's involved. Rabbi Yehuda uses different words. He goes from mitzvah, that's the lower level, up to chayva. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, there really isn't much of a machlekes. It's just a question of choice of words. Everybody is trying to go from one level to a level higher. It's just that the Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda have different ways of referring to those experiences. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Rishus Rabbanan, the lower level war that the Chachamim describe as Rishus, in which case exemptions are provided. Zohi mitzvah de Rabbi Yehuda, that's exactly the mitzvah that Rabbi Yehuda is speaking about. Mitzvah de Rabbanan, the higher level war effort, which the Rabbanan describe as mitzvah, for which everybody is involved. Zohi chayva de Rabbi Yehuda, that's exactly the war experience that Rabbi Yehuda refers to as chayva. So basically, according to the Rabbanan, it goes from rishus to mitzvah. According to Rabbi Yehuda, mitzvah to chayva, but they're speaking about the same types of war. So why? Why did they differ in their references? We'll see in a minute. And Rava will explain that there were actually three types of war efforts. Lower, higher, and even higher. Amar Rava, Melchames Yeshua lekabish. The wars that took place during Yeshua's time to capture Eretz Yisrael, everybody agrees that's level 3. That's on top. Divrei al kol chayva, everybody agrees that's chayva. Even though Rabbi Yehuda referred to it as Chacham called it mitzvah, but it means the same. Everybody needs to be involved, and everybody goes out, even the chas and the kal. Milchames based David l'Ravacha. Let's go down to level 1. Battles that David HaMelech would engage in to expand the territory, etc. Divrei kol rishus, everybody agrees that's just voluntary, it's optional. Meaning, we grant those exemptions and deferments. Kipligi, there is, however, a slight machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. A mid-level war. Level 2. Lemuti Abdi Chachamim. Let's say they discern some sort of threat and they want to go and preempt the enemy. Go out and wage battle to preempt, to weaken them, because they sense some sort of threat. That's sort of level 2. Mar kari la mitzvah. Rabbi Yehuda calls it a mitzvah. Umar kari rishus. Tanakama calls it rishus. Now all agree once again that in this mid-level mitzvah we give deferments and exemptions. Level 1 gets deferments. Level 2 gets deferments. It's only level 3 where everybody's involved. However, in terms of point of reference, in terms of titling the wars, giving them names, classifying them, we have a slight difference here. Level 1, Melchames Beis David, everybody agrees is called Rishus. Level 3, Melchames Yeshua, that's Chayva. Level 2, to preempt the enemy. Tanakama called it Rishus, because he went from Rishus up to third level, which is Mitzvah. So he called level 2 Rishus. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda, when he went from level 2 to level 3, he went from Mitzvah to Chayva. So he called level 2 Mitzvah. Mar Karele Mitzvah. Mar Karele Rishus. What's the point? What's the Nafkamina? Nafkamina is for a totally different halacha. Lo isik b'mitzvah shepata b'na mitzvah. We know when a person's engaged in a mitzvah activity, he's meant to be totally immersed and involved without any ability to engage in anything else at that time. Oisik b'mitzvah, engagement in one mitzvah exempts you from other mitzvahs. What about engagement in level 2 warfare? It's important, but is it called a mitzvah? Is it technically considered a mitzvah? Tanakama says no, and Rabbi Yehuda says yes, and therefore he would be pata from other mitzvahs at that time. Hadran Allah Mashuach Muhammad. Okay, we begin a new parak, Egla Arufa, B'Lashon HaKodesh. So they notice, they discover a slain person on the road, person killed, but killer unknown. No idea who killed this yid. The halacha is the closest city to the victim is sort of held responsible, and they have to go ahead and bring an egla, a calf, egla arufa, because they beheaded from the back. So that's the process that has to be applied. But first, the elders, the zakenim of the Sanhedrin HaGadol, Supreme Court in Yerushalayim and Lishkas HaGazes, have to make a trip to the area, and they have to measure. They have to do a survey to determine the closest city to the victim. Once they determine the city, then the members of the local Bezdin, they bring the egla, the calf, they do the arifa, and they speak and they say, look, we're not responding. We didn't do anything consciously to bring about this. We were not aware of this is going to happen. We did not, ignore his plight, etc. The Kayanim respond by saying, Kapar L'Amcha Yisrael, they down to Hashem, that this should be kapara. So all this discussion takes place in Lashon HaKodesh. Egla Rufa b'Lashon HaKodesh, Shenamar Ki Yimotzi Chol Ba'adama, we find a person killed, Ba'adama, on the ground, V'yotzu Zekenecha V'Shevtecha. And the Mishnah explains, Shloisha mi Bezdin HaGodel Sheb'Yerushalayim HaYotzim, 3 members of the grand Bezdin Yerushalayim, just to go out and verify the closest city. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Chamisha, 3 is not enough, you need 5. Shenamar, the pasuk says, Zekenecha, that's plural, Shnayim, 2. V'Shevtecha is another 2 Shnayim. Ve'in Bezdin Shakal, we never have a Bezdin with equal numbers. You need to have the ability to sort of get a majority, so you go ahead and you add another one, Mesifan Alein Oidechad, for a total of 5. Nimtza Taman Begal, let's say the mace, the chalal, is discovered beneath a pile of rocks, Oitolu Be'ilon, hanging on a tree, it's Afal Pnei Mayim, floating on water, Loyer Erfen, there was not an egla rufa applied. Shenemar Ba'adama, the pasuk says, Ki Matzeh Chalal Ba'adama. I'll read the whole pasuk. Ki Matzeh Chalal Ba'adama, Asher Hashem Elokech Noisen Lach L'Rishta, Noifel Ba'asada, Lo Yinoda V'Yiko, killer is unknown. So we learn like this. Ba'adama means on the open ground, exposed, Lo Taman Megal, as opposed to covered with a pile of stones. The pasuk says Noifel, lying on the ground, Lo Yitolu Be'ilan, as opposed to hung on a tree. Ba'asada, on firm ground, Lo Yitafal Pnei Hamayim, rather than floating on water. Now, Nimtza Samach L'Sfar, let's say the mace was discovered near the border of Eretz Yisrael, near the Goyim, the boundary between Yisrael and the Goyim. More near a city which is mostly inhabited by Goyim. Or it's right near a city which doesn't have a Bezdin in it. We would not do the process. Now, the Mepharshim explains, this really is divided into 2 parts. If the Chalal is discovered near a place frequented by Goyim, then there is no Egla Rufa at all, because the Gemara will tell us it's not really a surprise, unfortunately. The Goyim are involved in Ritzich all the time. The third halach, however, tells us like this. If the closest city does not have a Bezdin, then we sort of leave that city out of the equation and we measure to the next closest city, the one that has a Bezdin. So ultimately we do the Egla Rufa, but it is looked after by the closest city which has a Bezdin. As the Mishnah concludes, Ein Moededin Ela Le'ir Sheish Bezdin, we only measure to a city with a Bezdin. So the Mishnah began that Egla Rufa said B'Lashon HaKodesh, and we start with a pasuk, Ki Matzeh Chalal Ba'adama, which doesn't really discuss the language spoken. Micah Amar, so how do you see a language from there? Amar Avo, Hachik Amar, we're meant to sort of insert the following into the Mishnah. How do we know that Egla Rufa is B'Lashon HaKodesh? Hachik Amar Shanemar, because the pasuk here says Va'ana Va'amru. They call out and they say as follows. We have the Lashon Va'anu, or Lahalan or Oimer, and by the Levim, by the Brachas and Klolis, and Har Grizim and Areva, we also have Va'anu Va'amru. We compare the 2 things. Va'anu Levim Va'amru Ma'aniya Amru Lahalan Lashon HaKodesh, just like over there is Lashon HaKodesh, as we had discussed previously in the Masechta. Avkam Lashon HaKodesh, likewise, words spoken here by Egla Rufa are Lashon HaKodesh. That's number 1. And then the Mishnah continues with a detailed description of the whole process. V'seider Egla Rufa Keted, how do you do that? The Mishnah continues, Ki Matzeh Chalal Ba'adama, etc., etc., V'yotzu Zekenecha V'Shevtecha. Shloishim Bezdin HaGadol Sheb'Yerushalayim HaYotzim, that's according to Tanakama, Ridaimer, Chamisha, 5 members of the Bezdin. How do they come to these numbers? Tana Rabbanon. The pasuk says v'yatzu zikeinecha v'sheftecha. We learn zikeinecha is 2 shnayim, v'sheftecha is another 2 shnayim. Ve'ein bezin shakel. We don't have an equal bezin. Moisim raleim v'dechad. We get another one harekan chamisha. Tiv Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon Omer, it's only a total of 3, as follows. Zikeinecha is 2 shnayim. That's it. Ve'ein bezin shakel. We want it to be unequal, and therefore we get to 3. Moisim raleim v'dechad. We add another dayan harekan shloisha, a total of 3. Asks the Gemara, what does Rabbi Shimon do with the word v'sheftecha, which Rabbi Yehuda use for the extra 2? Oh, that's coming to teach us. You know which members of Bezdin come? The exceptional ones, the ones from the Supreme Court, from the Bezdin Haggadah in Yerushalayim. Rashi says sheftecha means the Kenim Shem Sheftim Es Yisrael. They're responsible for all of Klal Yisrael. It's not coming to add more numbers. For Rabbi Yehuda, how does Rabbi Yehuda know which Zikanim? Miziknei. He could have said Ziknei. It says Zikeinecha to tell you the special known Zikanim, the ones from the Sanhedrin Nafka. That's where we learn it from. So the word Zikeinecha tells you 2 things. Ziknei tells you another 2, and Zikeinecha the special ones. For Rabbi Shimon responds by saying like this: Ikas Rachmana Ziknei. You can't just say Ziknei. Havamina. Then I would say any elder person. I feel Ziknei Shuk, even just an older man. Anybody. You don't need a dayan from Sanhedrin. But now that it says Zikeinecha, somebody from Bezdin. But which Bezdin? Maybe a lower court, a local court. Because Rachman is Zikeinecha. If it only says Zikeinecha, I would say I feel Sanhedrin Ktana, even a member of the local Sanhedrin. Because Rachman is Sheftecha. And that's why the pasuk says v'sheftecha, to tell you the exceptional ones, the one from the Supreme Court. And therefore, according to Rabbi Shimon, there's no extra pasuk to tell you 5. For Rabbi Yehuda, how does Rabbi Yehuda know, in fact, that was speaking about the highest zikanim? Gomar ziknei eda. He learns it through Gzera Shava from the ziknei eda, which are involved in something called Par Helem Davar Shal Tzibur, a special carbon that they bring when they do a grand Avera. Klal Yisrael is over and a big Avera through Bezdin. So they're involved in that carbon. And there we know that they are members of the Sanhedrin HaGadol. And we bring Gzera Shava. Ma'ala Halam Miyuchadim Shebeidah, just like over there, it's the Supreme Court Dayanim. Afkan here as well, Miyuchadim Shebeidah. We know that Egel Rufa involves those people. And therefore we don't need a pasuk for that. We have the extra pasuk for the number 5. Says the Gemara, Igomar. Well, if according to Rabbi Yehuda we connect Egla Rufa to the other carbon of Parallel Davar, then Ligmar Lakula Milsim Hasam, then just learn the numbers from there as well. There is 5 and here is 5. If so, Zikeinecha Sheftecha Lamali, why do we need these psukim by Egla Rufa for the number 5? Elo, says the Gemara, you're right, we do not have this Gzera Shava on record. If so, how does Rabbi Yehuda know 5? If the psukim are needed for the other purposes. The answer is the Vav. Extra Vav of V'sheftecha L'minyana, it's coming to tell you another 2 dayanim, for a total of 4, and then we go to 5 because of the unequal amount. For Rabbi Yehuda Vav Le'da, Rabbi Shimon Vav Le'da, Le'mashmalei, he does not focus on the Vav, he doesn't use that as a drush. Asks the Gemara one more kash. Ela me'ata, if we're going to focus on all these words, what about V'yatzu? Umadadu. The pasuk could have said it without it. Pasuk could have said, the closest city, which is determined according to the dayanim. We don't need v'yatzu, they go out, and madadu, and they measure. Each one is telling you another 2. V'yatzu is 9, madadu is another 2. So it jumps now. The Rabbi Yehuda jumps from 5 to 9, harikan tisha. The Rabbi Shimon jumps from 3 to 7, harikan shiva. Answer is, those psukim are needed for the following. Look at this, Sanya, the following brisa. V'yatzu tells you it's something personal. The Bezdin must go out and measure themselves, rather than sending out a surveyor. It's something personal that they must do themselves. Umadadu, that word comes to tell us, shafilu nimtza be'alil li'ir, even if the chalal was found clearly close to a city, it's right next to the city. Do you need to measure? Measurement was required. There's a mitzvah to actually measure and to make that survey to determine which city is responsible, even though you see clearly which one's the closest city. Okay, so what did we learn today? We started that a mace is metame 4 amis around it. That's the Rabbanon. We learned about a person who was ma'aris, engaged in isha, who is new at least to him, as opposed to remarrying a previous wife, and we're speaking, of course, that she's mutter to him, then he gets that exemption, whether she's a psula, an almana, or even a shemeres yavam, a waiting gibum. We learned derech eretz. First, you build a home, establish a business, and then pursue a family. We have a group of people who never leave their homes. They're within the first year of marriage, new home, or that vineyard, and therefore they don't involve in anything except for their personal pursuits. That's their priority right now. And in fact, there's a double lav for doing otherwise. We speak about the next phase. Yorei v'rach haleva. We have a difference of opinion. According to Rabbi Kiva, literally weak and faint-hearted. According to Rabbi Yaglili, averis shebiyadai. Even averis the rabbanon, like being sach bein tefillin with tefillin. According to Rabbi Yesi, dafka averis de'raisa. They prevent fleeing because it can bring to downfall. Then we have three levels of milchamis. We have the lower level, milchamis David, l'revach, l'revacha. All agree that's called milchamis rishus. And we allow those exemptions and deferments. The next level is preempting the enemies. That's called, according to Rabbanan, Rishus as well. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that's called mitzvah. But we still grant those exemptions and exceptions, as we discussed till now. However, the highest level of warfare, that's Mechemes Chayva, which was Kibush Yeshua. Everybody's involved, even the Chasanim and the Kalis. Egal Rufa was said B'Lashon HaKodesh. How many Dayanim were involved? According to Rabbi Shimon 3, according to Rabbi Yehuda 5. B'suras Tevis and all the best, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.